Right, guys, let's start off with what you both know about AI, because I tell you what, the more I read, the less I know.
Please, Rima first.
Well, until ChatGPT burst onto our radar 12 months ago, I understood AI to be the processing of data, a disruptive technology that could be used to automate tasks, that could be used to replace a lot of repetitious tasks and the like. But I hadn't appreciated the full impact of how disruptive it could be and what a threat and a challenge AI in all its manifestations could be. My concern is that people, particularly in government, have very little understanding of the consequences, indeed the unintended consequences in some instances, of this very disruptive form of technology.
I was very surprised when I was in a lesson in Stanford University, in New York University, in my city in Florence, because I tried to ask a question to my students 1 year ago, 1 year and a half ago, no, 1 year ago, in January 2023, and they give me an answer very perfect about Renaissance. Very great answer. And I don't understand. Wow! They studied very a lot. Then I understood what is ChatGPT, because I spoke for 3 years about artificial intelligence, and I never understand the very impact. When I stay on my role as professor with the students, and I saw the students give me every answer about Michelangelo, Leonardo, Brunelleschi, and the history of Florence, and I said, okay, that is artificial intelligence. I think artificial intelligence is potential a great threat, is absolutely true, but at the same time, I think is one of the best assets for our future. Please consider that in Riyadh, when in the flagship event of FII, we show with Rishaad and the people of FII a very great study. AI will increase the GDP from here to 2030 when an unbelievable growth. So we have to combine together the threats and the opportunities of AI, because that is one of the most challenging and great opportunities for our generation.
So the point then is, if it's going to do all these wonderful things, can it make leadership better? And that's what this is all about. That's the question. Is it there for the greater good, or does it have to be molded so that it can be?
I believe that it will not supplant leadership. In fact, it can enhance and support better leadership, better decision making. There can be opportunities to access masses of data that will lead to better decision making in a more timely way. It can be more efficient, more effective government policy making, for example. But first, government has to understand it, understand the consequences of it, and design and build and implement AI platforms that take into account the politics of governing.
But for politicians,
that's what I wanted to get to. So that's the elephant in the room. We can talk about leadership, but don't forget there is this huge body of trying to please people all the time and, well, go up the greasy pole, one thing, Matteo.
I think, of course, artificial intelligence will change deeply the impact of news in the day-by-day life. That means, after the impact of social media and in politics, the new impact of artificial intelligence could transform everything. The real question is, what is the truth? Please, I'm a Christian, and I remember the dialogue between Jesus Christ and Pilatus in the last moment of the life of Jesus Christ. The question was, in Latin, quid est veritas? What is the truth? So it's a question we have in the last 2,000 years.
I thought it was Vino Veritas.
That is a different point. Very interesting, but different point. And the truth is very complicated. We live in a time of post-truth. And with artificial intelligence, for politicians, everything could change. For example, usually in the past, the people think there is a news, Julie, Matteo, and all that had that decide to did that. Okay. Without picture, was impossible to believe in that. But with the picture, everyone, okay, I see the picture, I believe in that news. Now, with the new pictures, we are absolutely fake pictures. I think there is the border between the truth and the fake news is absolutely new. But despite that, I think for politicians that is an opportunity, not simply a problem. Of course, it's not easy, and we have to invest in a new generation of people able to recognize the differences between the true and the fake news. Not easy, but wonderful.
To you, Matteo, you teach this course, The Challenges of Europe. Now, you put that into an AI bot, we'll be waiting all century for the
I
answers.
think for the crisis of Europe, also artificial intelligence have some problem to solve the crisis of Europe, because the crisis of Europe is a crisis of mission and vision. We have a crisis in demography. We discussed this morning. If you think about the numbers, in China we have more or less 1.5 billion people. In India, more than 1.5 billion people. Africa will arrive to more than 1 billion people in the next years. Europe maintain a number of people who stay under 500 million people. And we consider ourselves as a great power because we were great power, but we have to change ourselves. So about the crisis of Europe, I'm not sure artificial intelligence could help in my course with the students.
And we haven't got all week, right?
I'm sure if Europe decide to have a protagonism also in this sector, we can play a role in the global stage. If we continue to be only a spectator between USA, China, Middle East, and Africa, we lost an opportunity.
But what it could do, and this is where I think leaders will take advantage of AI, it can teach us the lessons of history. We're always saying that we never learn the lessons of history. Well, if, for example, economic policies, there's so much debate about what works, what doesn't, what's the right policy, how do we deal with the growing inequality around the world with different economic policies. If AI as a tool could provide an historic analysis like that of all the economic policies that worked and didn't work, there are the facts. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's there. And so that's where populists would find
that's what I'm going to come to in a second.
Good. We're thinking the same.
You mentioned demography.
Yeah.
Got an aging population. We all know, and I think it was Emmanuel Macron who really fought the Yellow Brigade, essentially, and he got his measures through finally. This is a problem endemic across Europe. The point being, you're not going to win another election if you're not very careful in how you deal with this, because everybody knows retirement ages have to go up. So it can give you some harsh answers which are unpalatable because you're a politician ultimately.
Good question and a complicated problem. I think that, first of all, today artificial intelligence will change totally and deeply everything, not only politics. Consider that, because if we continue to speak only about politics, we lose also the debate before our. And I think artificial intelligence will change. For example, one stupid but very important, well, not stupid, one simple example. We discussed today about healthcare. In my country, yesterday, there was the strike of doctors after an unbelievable pressure for COVID, for pandemic. The government decided to don't give money to doctors and nurses, etc., and yesterday there was the first strike after pandemic. Okay. But if we consider doctors, medicine, and healthcare without artificial intelligence, we don't consider the challenging of present. For example, cancer could be destroyed in the next 5 years, according and following the people, in the next 20 years for other people, also thanks to new technologies focused on artificial intelligence. So I know artificial intelligence is a great challenger for politics because they change everything also in our paradigm, but is also a great asset to try to change our day-by-day life. That is the point. Okay, we can continue. About ourselves, I think for Europe, Europe is a place we had 7% of population, 24-25% of GDP, 49% of welfare society in the world. That is the numbers of Europe. Now Europe all will be able to imagine a new future, a new idea, a new vision, a new mission for the old continent, or we remain a very good museum, very great for holidays. In my opinion, Emmanuel Macron is the only one in the stage today between the leaders of the European Union who have the desire to transform Europe not in a museum but in a lab.
Julie, you know, it can all go wrong as well, can't
Yes,
it? And
absolutely.
let's have a look at Australia's example of robo-debt. Tell us a little bit about this crisis and how it was fermented.
Well, here's an example where the government didn't design, build and implement an AI online platform and a data processing system with the consequences in mind, and it turned out to be an absolute disaster. The idea was to focus on welfare compliance and crack down on welfare fraud, and there was this belief that if you matched the welfare data that went into the Centrelink, the social services department, with averaged income across the Australian Tax Office and kind of matched it, you'd then be able to identify the people who there was a discrepancy, so they must be cheating on the welfare system. Well, it all sounded very good in theory, and in practice it was a disaster because
You've got other examples as well, haven't you, of this?
it automatically sent out debt notices to people claiming they owed the government a lot of money, and in many instances there was no debt. So about 400,000 or 500,000 debt notices were sent and had incredible consequences on people's lives. It ended up in a royal commission and Senate inquiries, and it all came down to the fact that those designing the system didn't understand it, they didn't test it, they didn't have pilots, they just went into it believing that they understood. This means, again, government needs expert advice, and when it comes to AI, the expertise lies in the private sector. So there's got to be a partnership between the private sector, the experts in the AI field, and governments who are going to harness the power of AI to implement public policies that have a huge impact on people's lives.
Julie, we've been struggling to keep up with developments in the internet and beyond, etc., and we're always playing catch-up. Is this the time that people looked at AI and said, we've got to put civil society first, and at a time when the genie may be slightly out of the bottle, but not completely?
This is a difficulty of trying to put a framework in place for ethical, responsible use of AI. And I know many entities, many nations, the OECD, around the world are trying to come up with a set of principles, but we can't even agree on the ethical use of the internet. So I can't see how in any time soon we're going to be able to agree a set of ethical principles. And the risks come in national security, in breaches of privacy, in military applications of AI and the like. And again, it comes down to the human input. If you say to an artificial intelligence drone system, for example, go and take out terrorist XYZ, and it goes off and does it, fine. But if you say, go and take out all the bad guys, well, then you're leaving it to AI to work out who the bad guys are.
Exactly.
That's dangerous.
You know, the moral responsibility, you may be feeling very strongly about something from an ethical and moral point and a perspective, but if AI tells you to do something else, how do you grapple with that?
I think the question about ethics and philosophy are very, very, very complicated, but that will open a new door for the future for the students. Let me be very clear. A guy today ready to study, to challenge for artificial intelligence, not necessarily have to study STEM, could study philosophy, could study right, because the world of tomorrow will be totally different also in that sector. But I think we have to be honest with ourselves. a part of problems come from artificial intelligence, but a part of problem come before artificial intelligence. Just one example in 30 seconds. When I was President of Council of Prime Minister in 2016, before I lost a referendum, in 2016 everyone lost a referendum. David Cameron was the chairman of this company who lost a referendum, and the deputy chairman, etc. But I remember a discussion with the member of G7, European member of G7, with President Obama in Germany. Merkel, Hollande, Cameron, myself, and of course President Barack Obama. And I remember we discussed about the fake, the trolls in the websites, in the social media, in Facebook before the Cambridge Analytica scandal, before. And I remember with François Hollande, we posted, we opened the discussion. We risk how democracy could be changed from fake news and trolls. And I remember a part of the people on the table.
What was the conclusion?
No, the conclusion was two people told, that has a not very good thing. They use the expression not so good. But then, after 2 months, Brexit and the results of a Russian influence in the Brexit campaign show how was very deep that problem before the artificial intelligence.
I was going to say, don't you think we need the A-team back? Now, David Cameron's gone back to be Foreign Minister. Matteo?
Matteo, no, I think it's interesting that David come back.
But it's an interesting discussion to be having in 2016.
Exactly, and I'm going to talk about 2016 and perhaps also bring another parallel with Donald Trump, of course, perhaps coming in. Now, how could he use AI to further his ambitions and also legally and politically?
I don't know that he and AI are particularly aligned. I'm sure he has a lot to say about AI, but his challenge would be, as a very populist leader who comes up with short-term answers, popular answers to seemingly...
Which AI would say no to, you're suggesting?
Well, I'm just getting there, that in terms of his populist policies, AI recommendations based on history and analysis and the like, would say this is the answer, this is for the long-term benefit of the nation, whereas some of President Trump's policies are very short-term that might be popular sugar hit for the public, but in fact, history shows will have disastrous long-term consequences, for example, in trade, in immigration and the like.
And of course, you could reprise your old Prime Minister, the cruise ship crooner Silvio Berlusconi, and he's a very similar type of character. So what would you do if you were in that position?
If populism could be considered a startup, Italy could be a Silicon Valley of populism, because we created a lot of different populists in the last 30 years. And we had different government, also because we change the government every year just to maintain our fresh style. But independently from that, I think there is a problem in the day-by-day approach, as Julie rightly explained. If I'm a man or woman, a politician with a vision, I don't think about the reaction of day by day. I have a vision, I have a mission, and I know I have to go in that direction. If I continue to think only about the reaction of the people, my only preoccupation is not the vote of the people every 4 years. My only preoccupation is my post works or not. How many likes I received. The reel is viral or not viral. That independently from I said, it's wonderful a chat with my team, because, okay, this reel is very good, but what is the content of reel? Oh, I don't know. It works. A lot of like, a lot of viral effects. So that is independent from artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will increase the problems of the relation between politics and consensus, and maybe artificial intelligence. I'm really curious, because I think if artificial intelligence really will work, artificial intelligence will destroy Italian bureaucracy. But I think artificial intelligence will work everywhere, but not with Italian bureaucracy. That is unbattable.
Will it work with Australia very quickly?
I think it will. I must ask ChatGPT to write me a response on how will AI affect Australian democracy. I did actually ask ChatGPT whether or not the predictions of overwhelming humanity and the loss of humanity through AI would come to pass, and it came back in about 2 seconds with an answer saying no, that AI would not destroy humanity, that it actually could be used for the common good as long as governments regulated, had appropriate governance, accountability, transparency. So it gave us a,
But it would
gave
say
me a
that.
lecture on yes, of course it would
Lulling
say
you
that.
into a false sense of security.
I know.
Thank you, everybody.
Isn't it?
Thank you, Judy Bishop there, please, and Matteo Renzi. Please give it up for them.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, let's go.
Wow.